Hello, everyone. Saturday night, and we are going live. Benji here, in the Self-Love and Shadow Work group, with a topic today that was requested by a couple of people that I know a lot of you are going through here. Partly because it's just something that a lot of people go through, but also because this codependency is one of the things that really sends us on this spiritual journey in the first place. Hey, Ruben, good to have you here. So this is not a topic that I had planned, and it's a very big topic. It's a very tricky one, so I'm going to need to take my time with this a little bit. I'm going to do my best here. And it's tricky for a couple of reasons. It's tricky because, I mean, it's a big issue. There's a lot going on involved in this, but it's also tricky because the codependency itself is a symptom of other things, and it can come from a lot of things, but overall it's really one thing going on. And I'm going to get into this a bit, but what are we really talking about with this codependency? It's overall that there's someone out there that you think that you love so much that you are willing to do anything for them, that you are like, my heart is so open to them, and there's nothing that I wouldn't do for them, and you're sacrificing for them over and over. You're giving yourself away, and you're waiting for this person to finally wake up to the fact that, like, look, all I'm doing is loving you. All I'm doing is I'm here for you. What more do you want? And you're just waiting for that person to give you even a shred of the love, respect, the dignity that you are giving to them. And it's all coming from love, right? It's all coming from your heart space. It's all coming from this beautiful, beautiful place of caring, of unconditional love, of I'm here for you, of this is supposed to be beautiful. But I'm going to need to give you guys some sort of harsh truths in this one, because it has nothing to do with them. It has nothing to do with this other person. And overall, it's not actually coming from a place of pure love. And I don't mean that in a judgmental way. I mean that in the sense that you are confused. And please keep in mind, I was very codependent. I went through this. None of anything that I'm about to say has any sense of judgment in it. It's just that it's a pattern. It's something that's going on, and this is what we're going to have to learn and what we're going to have to talk about today. So just before I get into it, there's also one other thing that I want to say, which I'm sorry to have to say this because I don't want to sound like I'm trying to, profit off of your pain. But if you're dealing with this, you really, really should consider taking my course. I can help you get you through this. And it's, like I said, this is a tricky topic. So I'm going to be able to explain to you some things in this video, but I can't solve the overall problem for you in this short video. But so this is what's going on. There's someone out there that you're giving yourself away to, and you think that you're whole and you're full and you're complete in yourself, and you just have this love for this other person, and it's their behavior that is doing this to you. It's their narcissism. It's their treatment of you. But like I said, it has nothing to do with this other person. So what I want you to picture is, it's like a donkey, the way that we used to get donkeys to move. Like, we hold the stick with the carrot in front of them. And so you're walking here, and there's the stick, which is sort of the love that you are extending to that person. And that's what you're trying to use to connect with that, because the stick you have a bit of control of. And then there's the string, which is the distance that they are putting between you and them. And you can't control that. That's waving around, and no matter what you try and do, the string is moving around. And then there's the carrot. The carrot is that love. The carrot is that thing that you're trying to grab from them. And this is the overall picture. But here are the two things that you may notice that, one thing that I didn't include in this is the other person. They are not a part of this formula whatsoever. And the other thing is, you are the one holding the stick. You are the one holding it in front of you, trying to grab it, not realizing that, wait a minute, I'm holding the stick here. So all you got to do is pull it in, grab the carrot, and start eating it. Because that is really what we're dealing with here, is that you are seeking from someone else what you should be giving to yourself in the first place. So the overall way that through this video I'm going to try and help you understand this and move towards a solution is that we are going to create a paradox, or we're going to recognize a paradox that already exists, and then we are going to solve that paradox. And the paradox has to do with unconditional love for others as well as unconditional love for ourselves. And the short version of it is that any unconditional love or any love that you give to someone else without first giving that unconditional love to yourself is actually a cry for help. It's not true love. And that's what I was saying at the beginning, that you think that you're coming at it from this place of pure love and giving, but that's not actually what it is. It's a cry for help from your inner self. Your inner self knows that you've been giving yourself away too much, and it's trying to show this to you in another person. It's trying to get you to recognize this dynamic that's going on. So there are a few things that I often deal with. Like, one of the core concepts of this awakening that we're going through, that we're all dealing with, and especially for those who are talking about twin flames or dealing with that, as usual, I'm going to try and avoid that topic too much. For anyone who's watching here right now or later and who isn't a twin flame, please understand, I'm just using lessons from this. You don't need to be a twin flame. You don't need to resonate with it. You don't need to believe in it. It's just that all you need to know about it for now, and please don't research it more. If you're not a twin flame, just don't get into this. But all you need to know about it for now is that your twin flame is a representation of a part of you. This person is not separate from you. This person is a piece of you. And this is the paradox that we are going to develop and deal with in this video. That the more that you chase someone, or the more that you ignore this person, or the more that you wait for them to come around and give you what you need, that person is actually a part of you. You are chasing yourself. You are running away from yourself. You are waiting for yourself. It's all a mirror. So this other person that you're begging for love from, you're begging for love from a mirror. And the mirror cannot actually give you any love. You can only give yourself that love. And one of the ways that I like to express this is that when you're on an airplane, they tell you that when the oxygen masks come down, you need to put on your own mask before helping someone else. And that's basically what we're dealing with here, that you cannot possibly help someone else or give someone else any real love so long as it's coming from this wounded place, because then it's not real love. You're only giving it to them, and at a conscious level you are giving it to them out of pure love. I'm not saying that you're trying to manipulate them. I'm saying that subconsciously you are only giving it to them because you are hoping that they are going to give it back to you. You are craving the very love that you are giving to them, and usually you're doing it because you are an empath. You are very strongly connected to your emotions, but you're very wounded at the same time. So you're not fully connected. There's this barrier that's going on here because you can feel the love that you have for this person, and you can feel the love that you want from them, but you're still disconnected from it because you haven't learned to give it to yourself. And so there's this disconnection between your core feelings and your core self and this outer representation of the love that you think that you want. So another thing I often tell people is that, so when you're in this codependent state, or when you're in a state where you are not loving yourself enough for any reason, because when you're not loving yourself enough, that sometimes manifests as codependency, and that sometimes manifests as you like running away from dependency. So it can go both ways. But when you are at a place where you are not truly loving yourself, no amount of love from anyone else, no amount of comments, no amount of compliments, no amount of support from anyone else can possibly do anything for you. As a performer, this is just a way that I like to explain this, that when I am pleased with one of my performances, nothing that anyone can say can throw me off. If I gave a great performance and I love my performance and someone else didn't like it, great, that's fine. You didn't love it. I'm proud of myself. I'm happy. It doesn't matter. There are other people in this crowd that loved my performance, and I don't need to prove anything to you. But if I get up and I give a performance that I am not pleased with, no amount of someone telling me, what are you talking about? That was great. You sang great. You danced great. You look great. I love the costume. No amount of compliments from anyone is going to convince me otherwise, because I see the things that I didn't love about my performance. I see the things that I didn't love. So this person that I was codependent towards, I mean, I've been codependent to various people over the years, but this main person that I'm thinking of that I was codependent to over the years, not over the, either way, recently, she did not really love herself. And there was no, like, I told her all the time how beautiful she was, how amazing she was, how much she meant to me. I told her that she was so much more than she knew, that she had so much more talent in her that she knew, so much more wisdom that she knew. And realistically, the more that I complimented her, the more that I tried to empower her with these words, the more it actually hurt her, because she didn't believe it. So there is no amount of love that someone can give to you that is going to replace the love that you need to be giving to yourself in the first place. That's what I mean when I say that this is a cry for help. And on top of it, it is a useless cry for help, because they cannot possibly do it. So even if this person were to finally come around and to finally start giving you, the best love that they have to give you, 99% chance that is not going to fulfill you anyway. Partly because you still have not given yourself that love, so it's going to land on dead ears. It's not going to really hit home. You're not going to really hear and feel the love that they're giving to you. But at least at the moment, this other person is literally incapable, not just in terms of like they're incapable because it's on you, but in their own personality, they are incapable of giving you the love that you deserve, because you are an empath and they are not. Now, I say you are an empath and they are not, and you would like to say, oh yeah, and they're a narcissist. Okay, well, here's where we start getting into some of the deeper layers of things. They are not a narcissist. Firstly, there's no such thing as an empath and a narcissist. There's wounded and there's healed. That's it. But more importantly, the more that you call this person a narcissist, the more that you are running away from the role that you are playing in this whole thing. So let me let me read something that someone else posted. Okay, here we go. However, this particular person allows this to happen, and he knows what he's doing, and he knows that I've lost myself, but he keeps it up because he's a narcissist. As much as I hate to admit it, a complete self-serving narcissist, and he does not have any regard for my feelings or treat me like a human being on most days. Okay, so there are a couple of things there. This person allows it to happen. That's number one, right? So this other person is allowing this dynamic to play out. Here's a harsh truth for you and for everyone that's dealing with. You are allowing this dynamic to play out. This other person is incapable of understanding, especially if you think this person is a narcissist, then by your own definition, this other person is incapable of understanding at the core level what they are doing to you, because they are not connected with their emotions. And if they're not connected with their emotions, then they're not connected with yours. They literally, it's like you are a university student of emotion trying to explain to a kindergartner why they are being emotionally abusive to me. And that is exactly what I dealt with. These people who were being emotionally abusive to me, and the more emotionally abusive to me that they were, the more that I tried to express to them at a very mature level why it is that the things that they were doing to me were harmful, were abusive, were cruel. And every time I expressed myself in this intellectual, mature way, their response was always, whoa, Benji, that was really harsh. And in my head, I'm just like, no, that was actually the calmest, the most mature, the most healthy, and like overall understanding way that I possibly could have expressed this to you. I expressed this without judgment. I expressed this without blame. I expressed this without putting anything on you. I just told you, like, look, the way that you just said that to me, there are 100 better ways for you to have said that, and that was very cruel. And the response was, whoa, Benji, look, I was just kidding, or I was just doing this, or I was just, because they are incapable of understanding. So when you say that this other person is allowing this to happen, they are not the ones that are allowing this to happen. They are participating in this for sure. I'm not saying that they are objectively blameless in this, but you are the one that's allowing this to happen. And then what was the other phrase in there? Okay, he does not have any regard for my feelings or treat me like a human being. Here's the other harsh truth. Once again, it is you doing this to yourself. You see this dynamic. They don't. You see yourself giving yourself away to someone. They do not. So you are the one that has no regard for your own feelings right now. Again, please understand, I'm not saying this in a judgmental way. I've been there, and I'm trying to express this paradox that you're in, that you are putting the blame on this other person, because that is the natural way of dealing with this. That is our 3D mind, our ego-based consciousness that is placing up these mirrors and this reflection and this illusion of someone else who is doing this to you. There is no such thing. No one can hurt you without your permission. You allow them to hurt you by investing your own self-worth in what this person thinks of you, in whether or not they are there to care for you, in whether or not you are able to receive from them the things that you should be giving to yourself in the first place. So when you say a phrase like, where is it? I know that I really do deserve so much better. It is you that has to give yourself that much better. And when you say the phrase of, am I cursed? The answer is yes, but you are the one cursing yourself. Remember, go back to that metaphor that I used at the beginning of the stick with the carrot on it. You are holding the stick, and you're holding it out as far as you possibly can, and with the other hand trying to grab that carrot, and it's just not going to work. So here's where we start diving into, I'm going to get into the sort of quantum mechanics, just a tiny bit. I mean, I'm not really going to get into the quantum mechanics. I'm just going to get into just one concept here, the dimensions that we're working with. So at the top dimension, there's this singularity where we are all one, and then sort of splits off and splits off and splits off until we're at this base level reality down here, our 3D level reality, where we are painting this picture of this other person who is doing it to me. But at the core of this, all that exists is oneness. All that exists is you. And that's the dimension that you need to sort of shift to for us to develop this paradox that we are then going to solve in order to escape this dilemma. Because at that core, all that exists is you. Consciousness floating in a sea of quantum possibility, where all that's going on is waves of light and energy that only break down their quantum wave functions into particle form and create a reality when there is a consciousness there to experience it. And you are the consciousness that is there to experience it. So I don't exist right now. I am a figment of your imagination. I am a reflection of your own inner consciousness here to tell you where you are going wrong. And at the core of it, and this is why I mentioned twin flames, because with the whole twin flame dynamic, this other person is a part of you. And what this sends you on is a journey of inner healing, because, so with me, the way that this started was, when me and this person separated, I knew that this other person was hurting a lot more than I was. I thought at the time that I was like doing phenomenally, that I, sorry, I thought at the time that I was more or less fully healed, because I was finally discovering myself. I was finally becoming the person that I was meant to be. I was finally expressing myself more than I ever had. And while I was so much further along than she was, I was not fully healed. This was before my dark night of the soul and before I went through all of this. And this other person, by pulling away, was reflecting to me the parts in which I was pushing. It's basically like you are positive over here and they like positive charge over here and they're positive charge over here, and you're chasing them and that's pushing them away. And the more that they push away, the more that you try and go, because here's this other person, you're chasing them as much as you possibly can, but the more that you chase them, the more that they push away, and it's just going to keep on repeating and repeating and repeating until you reach the end of the world and one of you falls off the cliff. No, I'm not a flat earther. That was just a metaphor. But you are chasing them and chasing them and chasing them, and all the more energy that you put into them is just pushing them away further and further and further. And basically the universe is giving you the same lesson over and over and over and over until you finally step up to learn it. So this is where we get into the fact that you need to stop blaming, you need to stop judging, you need to recognize that it is all a mirror. So one of the shifts that I talk about in my webinar is everything happens for you, not to you. When you recognize that all that exists is you, your own core consciousness floating in this sea of possibility, you start recognizing that it is your subconscious that is doing this to you. You can look at it from the point of view of God, or it's your own intuition, or it's your own whatever, however you want to look at it. But you are the one doing this to yourself. And the judgment, the blame, that is, you are judging and blaming yourself. So your subconscious is showing you this in another person, because if you didn't feel this from someone else, you would never stop and learn the lesson. So as was mentioned in the comments earlier, yes, this does date back to childhood. This relates to other triggers and traumas that you are holding on to. This is a symptom of something else that is going on. And you are in this dilemma in the first place because your brain is trying to make you heal, not because it's trying to torture you. You're not being cursed from the outside. You are cursing yourself because there is this old frequency imprint that was left in your brain that you didn't deal with the first time it happened. There was this issue of abandonment that happened when you were like 4 years old, and that created a frequency. It like shot pain into your brain, and that created a frequency. And because you were 4 years old, you were confronted with the fight, flight, or freeze response. And you didn't know how to fight or to flee, and you chose freeze, which means that that frequency imprint got stuck in your brain. So there was this chemical reaction, there was an emotional reaction, there was this frequency that happened, and every frequency has what is known as a refractory period. That is the amount of time it takes for this frequency to either dissipate and get cleared from you, or if you don't deal with it in that meantime, if you don't fight or flee away or receive the love and the care that you deserve, then it digs down a level deeper and becomes a mood. So at first it was just a quick instinct reaction, but then it's now something that's sticking with you a little bit, and it's a mood. And now if you don't deal with the mood during its own refractory period, it becomes a temperament. So it's a recurring mood, something that comes up over and over and over. So you were abandoned once, and you didn't cry, you didn't deal with it, you didn't get the love that you deserved in that meantime, so that stuck around for a few hours and became your mood, or maybe for even a few days, and you still didn't deal with it. So you managed to get yourself out of that mood, but only because that frequency dug itself a layer deeper. So now you're operating over here, but that frequency is still operating over here, and every once in a while, poof, it comes back up. And then a few days later, poof, it comes back up, and it comes back up, and it comes back up. And all it's trying to do when it comes up is get you to dive down a little bit and meet it at its level so that it can finally be dealt with. And if you don't deal with it during a temperament, it becomes a personality trait. If you don't deal with it then, it becomes a core part of your personality. If you don't deal with it then, it becomes a fundamental part of the reality that you live in. So you are currently living in a reality where abandonment is the norm. And that is why you are chasing someone, because you are afraid of confronting the abandonment that this person is currently giving to you, rather than recognize that, okay, here's this person who's not giving me the love that I know I deserve, and I don't want to confront the fact that this is abandonment, that this person's abandonment of me right now is the real pain. But instead of dealing with that real pain deep down, I'm going to deal with a surface level thing instead, because it is easier for me to put blame on this other person. It is easier for me to judge this other person and call them a narcissist than to accept the fact that I am playing a role in all this. I am the one who is allowing them to treat me like this. I am the one who is chasing them over and over and over when they are not giving me anything. So someone who requested this and mentioned in the comments that it's about changing our thought patterns, absolutely. Remember the metaphor that I just gave about positive and positive and you're pushing them away. What's actually going on here is that you need to switch your electrical charge to negative so that you can operate differently. Now, you can do this. This is, okay, so going back to why I brought up twin flames. So there are two reasons why it's relevant here. And I really try not to talk about this too much. Again, if you're watching this and you're not a twin flame, just ignore that element of it. Do not look this up further. Just go with this. So one of the reasons why I started, one of the reasons why I started my inner healing journey at the deeper level when I did was, as I started saying a bit ago, I recognized that this other person was actually in a lot more pain than I was. And even though she was hurtful to me, even though she abandoned me, even though she ghosted on me, and you know, if anyone involved is watching this, sure, I was not perfect either. I'm not saying that, but there's the healed emotional level where I was giving actual love, and there's the emotional level where she was running away and abandoning me. But either way, I recognized that she was in more pain than I was, and with the whole twin flame dynamic, you recognize that this person is a part of you. So if you heal, they heal. If you choose to improve yourself and go on this inner healing journey, then so do they. So I decided that I love this person enough to start diving into the worst of my triggers and traumas, that even though I'm healed at this level and she is down there, I am going to make sure that I keep on rising, even if it means diving down into the deepest part of it. I'm going to keep on rising and I'm going to keep on healing, and I'm going to do everything that it takes to heal my own wounds, because if what I believe is true, then the more that I heal, the more that she heals. So I'm doing it for her, or I'm doing it for our union, or this or that, or I'm doing it so that one day we can finally be happy together. But one of the first things that I recognized as soon as I made this decision to do that is that there's a paradox involved there. Because this journey of inner healing is all about unconditional self-love. So if you are doing this healing work for the sake of someone else, then you are lying. You are lying to yourself and you're lying to the universe, and you cannot con the universe. You cannot do your own inner healing for the sake of someone else. It's a paradox. It doesn't make sense. It cannot happen. If you are trying to heal yourself only so that someone else heals and so that they come back to you, that is manipulation. That is not real love. That is not real healing. So I had this sort of manifesting script that I was using at the beginning, and even in there I mentioned, like, to myself, this is a script that I would read out loud every day to change my own thought patterns and to, you know, give myself affirmations, sort of thing, that I recognize that I am doing this work for someone else, knowing that this person may not ever, that I may never see her again. So I have to recognize that I'm not truly doing it for her. I'm doing it for myself, using this other person as motivation. That is the best that you can possibly do. And that is what I mean when I say that this other person is a mirror. This other person is the universe showing you the ways in which you are not loving yourself already. This other person is just a reflection of that part of you that you have been running away from this whole time. Because like I said, there's this deeply buried core wound of abandonment, of someone else made me feel less than worthy. Someone else made me feel like I am not deserving of love. And so that existed at the surface right over here at some time, and it got buried deep, 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 deep down. And now it's just so much easier for me to deal with this surface level thing of this other person who is being cruel and this other person who is being mean, not recognizing that it's you. This other person is you. At that core level of consciousness, all that exists is you. So this is the paradox, that no one else exists. It's only you and a reflection of yourself. And if you want to heal your relationship with this other person, then you need to heal yourself. So the paradox is that you cannot do this work for the sake of someone else, but you wouldn't do this work in the first place if it wasn't for this other person. So you had to split yourself into two in order to recognize this pattern that was going on. And then you need to solve that paradox by recognizing that all that exists is you. So you need to bring yourself back into yourself and start giving yourself the love that you are seeking from others. And then, and only then, will you be ready to start actually giving love to other people. Because what you're giving to this other person now, the unconditional love that you are giving to this person that you're calling a narcissist, is actually yourself begging to be loved. You are begging this other person to show you some care. But what have I told you already? This other person doesn't exist. This other person is a reflection of yourself. So you are actually begging yourself, please give yourself the love that you are seeking from this other person, but you're just not doing it because your focus is on the other person. Your focus is not on yourself. Your focus is, like I said, you have this wound within you, and you're doing everything that you can to run from it. You are hoping that someone else is going to give you some love and it's going to solve all your problems and everything's going to go away. But like I said, no amount of love from someone else can possibly fill that hole, because this wound of abandonment is literally, it's a hole in the bottom of your emotional cup, and you are constantly leaking outwards. So even if I were there, one of the most loving people that you've seen on video so far. Sorry, I'm having fun. But I would be like, if I was your lover and I was there for you, and I would be giving you all the love and all the compliments and all the empowerment, and I would be pouring it into your cup, and it would just be flowing out the bottom. And it would do nothing for you. And you know what would happen then? You would be the narcissist. You would be the one not treating me with respect, because I am here giving you nothing but love, trying to make you understand what is wrong with you. Why don't you love yourself enough to care about yourself? And then why don't you care about yourself enough to care about me at all? So here I am pouring my water into your cup, and here you are letting it flow out because you don't love yourself. And if I stayed, if I stuck around, then I am you. That's exactly what is going on here. You are pouring your love into someone else's cup, but this person who you are calling a narcissist, you are admitting to yourself by calling them a narcissist that they have this hole in their cup, a hole much, much bigger than yours. They don't even have a hole in their cup. They don't even have a bottom to their cup. I mean, maybe they have a tiny bit, because a sociopath would be like just a completely empty, like a completely open cup. But they're a narcissist, so they barely have any way of connecting with their emotions whatsoever. And here you are pouring your water into their cup, wondering, why is there no water in this cup? Why is there nothing for me to drink? Oh, right, because there's a hole in this cup. So you know how to heal that? Is to stop pouring your water into it. Your cup would be full if you just stopped pouring it into an empty jug. So you need to just turn your cup right side up and start giving yourself the love in the form of sort of a Klein bottle. If you don't know what a Klein bottle is, it's sort of like a Mobius strip. If you don't know what a Mobius strip is, let me show you, just for the fun of it. All right, here is a piece of paper. Now we twist the piece of paper once, and it's a little hard to do right here, but we connect it just like that. So if you were to follow this piece of paper all the way around, you keep on going and going and going, the inside becomes the outside, which becomes the inside, which becomes the outside again. There is no inside or outside to the shape. It's all one. So you need to start pouring the water back into your own cup in this very way. So If you are calling this person a narcissist, then you are calling a portion of yourself a narcissist. If you are blaming this person for not giving you the love that you deserve, you are blaming yourself for not giving yourself the love that you deserve. You are saying that this person has no regard for your feelings, except you are the one that recognizes at this very moment that you are giving yourself away. You are the one recognizing that you are hurting because of this dynamic, and yet you are continuing to do it. So let me ask you, who is the one here who really has no regard for your feelings? I mean, yes, they do not, but they don't because they're incapable of understanding. They are not at the emotional level that you are at. And this is the topic that I call the tortured pain of an empath, because it's a cycle that goes over and over and over and over and over. That you are the university student trying to explain calculus, emotional calculus, to a kindergartner, and you are getting frustrated at the fact that this kindergartner cannot understand you. Why don't you understand me? Why don't you give me the same love back? Why don't you understand that you're being abusive? And he's just like, I just want to play with my Legos. What do you want from me? Like, I want you to understand. I want you to see what you're doing. But they don't have the emotional capacity to get this for now. So let's act as if, in the sense of one of the first phrases that I started teaching people when I was dealing with the whole twin flame stuff is, it doesn't matter whether or not this person is your twin flame. Start treating every single person in your life as if they were your twin flame, and you will start approaching unconditional self-love that much quicker, because every person outside of you is a reflection of yourself. You cannot do anything for this other person. If you love this other person so much that you want them to heal, the best thing that you can possibly do, or if you love this other person so much that you want them to love you, the best thing that you can possibly do is learn how to love yourself, because that's just how this works. At the soul level, at the higher dimensional level, at the core consciousness level where we're all one, this other person is tied to you. So instead of trying to explain to this kindergartner why they are being emotionally abusive, just start treating yourself better, and they will look at you and go, wow, that person really loves themselves. I want that. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not something that's literally going to happen. When you start healing yourself, it's not that this other person is going to see you healing yourself and decide that. It's more like at the soul level, that if you decide to heal, they decide to heal. That's how the twin flame dynamic works. But it doesn't matter, because the first thing that I recognized on this journey was that it doesn't matter if this person is or isn't. What matters is that you start treating yourself in the way that you are hoping this other person is going to treat you. And if you cared about yourself half enough as you want this other person to care about you, you would walk the fuck away. Not because you don't care about them, but because you care enough about yourself to start putting up the walls and boundaries. And that also doesn't mean that you need to stop loving them. It just means that you need to put on your own oxygen mask first, and only when you learn to love yourself first will you be ready to love them. So you need to recognize that in your own way, you are actually harming this other person too. You are harming yourself and you are harming this other person, because let's say this, positive charge over here, positive charge over there, and in the middle of both of you is where emotionally healed is. The more that you push them away, the more energy that you put into this, the further the distance gets between you and that person, and the further the distance gets between each one of you and that middle ground of being emotionally healed. You both want to come into the center. You both want to be emotionally healed and happy, but the more energy that you put into this, so like right now you're over here, but if you start begging more and more and more and more, then it pushes you guys further and further away, because you are putting more energy into this, which creates a bigger electromagnetic field around here, and you're pushing each other further and further away, and now you're both over here, and in the middle is where emotionally healed is. But the more energy that you put into this other person, the further that you get. So the more that you now start putting that energy back into yourself, the more that you can come into union over there. And by the time you are ready for union with another person, you will be so healed and whole that you won't need another person. You will be in the center of emotional health, of being emotionally cured, of loving yourself, And that is what this journey is all about. And that is how we solve the paradox. That at the beginning, you think it's this other person, but then you have to recognize that you've been pushing them away, and now it hurts so much. You have to recognize that, wait a minute, this person is me. So in order to heal this, I need to start loving myself. I need to start loving myself. And you finally get to this point that you're ready to love someone else. But wait a minute, I don't need anyone else because I love myself. And that is how we have solved codependency, because you don't need anyone else anymore because you love yourself so goddamn much. And when you get to this point, you are never going to accept this behavior from anyone ever again. Anyone who treats you like this, you are going to walk away. You're just going to say, look, sorry, I don't need this anymore. If you decide that you love yourself and you love me enough, get in touch and like, we'll see if I still care. We'll see if I'm still there for you. I don't know. But for now, I love myself way too much to give any of my power away to you. And while you do that, the trickiest part of all this is learning how to continue to love them unconditionally while you put up these boundaries for yourself. And you have to learn how to love them unconditionally because they are a reflection of you. Any judgment that you put onto them is judgment of yourself. This person came into your life to show you this lesson. And when you get to that point, when you are finally emotionally healed and in union within yourself, and you love yourself so much that you don't need anyone else anymore, you know what you're going to have to realize? That this person was a blessing. You would not have reached that state of emotional wellness if it wasn't for this person. That person was the reflection. They were showing you the ways in which you were not being kind to yourself. And the only reason why you allowed yourself to get hurt for so long is because you didn't recognize this. And if it wasn't for this other person, you would still be doing this and you would still be going around and around in circles. And on top of it, it wasn't this other person that did it to you. It was you. You did it to yourself this whole goddamn time. It never had anything to do with the other person. Basically, you've been trained somewhere along the way that you need to earn love, but the first person that you need to earn love from is yourself. It has nothing to do with this other person. It never has anything to do with these other people. It is always about yourself. Not in a selfish way. Not in a, I don't care about other people. All I care about is myself. But wait a minute. I am at the core of all of this. I decide how I get treated. I decide whether or not to allow toxic people into my life. I decide whether or not to allow this behavior. I decide whether or not I'm going to keep on chasing someone who refuses to give me love. It has nothing to do with them. You are the one doing it to yourself. You are the one cursing yourself. You are the one who has no regard for your emotional well-being right now because you are the one seeing this. And like I said, you're begging for love from a mirror. Ain't much a mirror can do for you. A mirror is just a way for you to look at yourself. So that's basically it. I hope that this was helpful, guys. Let me just see. I had a few notes here. I think that I touched on everything that I wanted, and I think I made the overall point that the more judgment, I'm going to see if there are any comments here. Talk a lot of sense. TF journey. Joe, like I said, I was just using the twin flame thing as an example here. And like I said, it's very much about recognizing like you should treat everyone in the world as if they are your twin flame, because the twin flame is about your inner healing. It's not about the relationship. The relationship may or may not be the cherry on top when you finally get to the end of this journey. But for now, treat every single person in the world as if they are your twin flame, because your twin is just a reflection of yourself and is showing you the things that you need. So working on yourself for now, that's great. I would love to hear more about how you're doing on that. Truly, like I said, I'm not trying to take advantage of anyone's issues and pain here, but if you're dealing with this, please get in touch. My course can help you so much. I promise you it can. It will help you deal with this. Let's see if there are any other comments here. Preach. Thanks, Laurie. You can't unconditionally love your twin until you unconditionally love yourself. Yes, even more so, you cannot love anyone conditionally or unconditionally until you unconditionally love yourself, because everything else is a cry for help. It's all just you. All that exists is you. That is all that exists. It's not selfish to recognize that. It is wisdom. So, DF journey is what reflected to me what I need to heal. Exactly. That is the point. But, well, not but that's it. So you have been shown what you have been doing, and now you need to start doing it, but at a more conscious level. Because, like, remember, when I started, as I mentioned in this already, when I even started the deeper levels of my journey, I already thought I was pretty healed, and I was. I was, running like I had dropped out of law school and was running my recording studio, and I was living my life my own way and expressing myself and sharing myself in every which way. I was speaking my truth and standing in it in a lot of big ways, and I was performing burlesque, which means that I was out there and vulnerable and showing every last side of me, both physically and spiritually. I thought that, like, ooh, I was so goddamn healed. I was so far up there, and I was doing pretty well. But wow, I did not realize how much further I had to go. And these things need to be dealt with at a very direct and conscious level, as well as subconscious and even a cellular level. And there are tools and ways to do this. And one of the worst things that people do is they jump from, like, the pain that this other person is causing them right into the deepest and darkest parts of their own pain, firstly not knowing how to truly do that. And when you dive into your own pain, if you're just repeating these phrases over and over, like, you start recognizing the ways in which that you were abandoned as a kid, but you don't know how to repave. Like, it's not just a matter of remembering your inner child's pain and of, like, giving your inner child a hug and that sort of thing. It's about redoing these memories completely. Because for the last, I'll use my own age, for the last 32 years, or for the last, like, 28, because let's say I developed my core wound at like 4 years old. For the last 28 years, I had been paving these negative pathways in my brain over and over and over, with every time that I said, like, every time that I blamed my dad for, like, making me feel naive or immature or something like that, it was simply not taking responsibility for my own actions, my own stuff. And point being, every time that I acknowledge that, like, oh, this act is what's responsible for me not feeling this way, that is me firing neurons down this negative pathway still. You are, and not only are you not healing it, but you are giving more and more power to this thing that you have now learned is the root cause of your problem. So you found a root cause of it, and you are giving more and more power to it every time you tell yourself that that is the reason why you have this fear of abandonment. Because the real reason is just that you haven't, is that you've been paving these negative pathways. It's just a pattern, a looping pattern. You need to learn how to deal with it at a conscious, direct level, and how to deal with it in a way that's not just going to recognize your wounds and give them a hug, but that is going to actually and actively heal them by stopping to fire neurons down that pathway and to start firing neurons down positive pathways, down pathways that are actually going to be healing and helpful for you. And that way you can let the old pathways grow over. All of these negative pathways that you've been training your whole life will start growing over with new grass, with new whatever, and you are going to pave positive pathways. And that is how we are literally going to retrain your brain. We're going to break the old highway, we're going to build a new one, and now that old highway that was leading you to codependency, we're going to build a new highway that is leading you towards self-love, wholeness, and emotional wellness. All right? So I truly, truly hope that this was helpful. I think that this went pretty well. And again, if you are dealing with this, please get in touch, because I know that I can help you with this, and I've been there. I know how it feels, and it's just, this is the journey. This is specifically what we are being meant to learn. And when you finally come into union with yourself, then that light will shine so much brighter. And that is when you can start being the true version of yourself, and when you can start putting yourself out there to the rest of the world and just finally love yourself. And that is when you can finally attract love into your own life, because it's all vibrations, it's all frequency. And right now, you are putting off frequencies of neediness, of desperation, and that is what you are then attracting back into your life, or more realistically, you're attracting the opposite of it into your life in these relationships, because it's what's bouncing back at you, because you're sending out a wounded energy, so it hits the wall and reverses itself and comes back. It's the mirrored energy that is coming back to you. But what you want to do is learn how to become whole in yourself, so that it can be a more pure reflection coming back at you. When you learn to give off love, then love is what will come back to you. But right now, you're giving off neediness. You are running away from yourself. All right? I hope that makes sense, guys. thanks for joining me. And thank you to Joe who suggested this. And yeah, I think that was a good one. I'll catch you guys soon. I hope to speak to some of you again. And I have another post in this group just a bit down of I hope to do another live video tomorrow. So I'm still accepting suggestions on that end. Love you guys so, so much. Have a beautiful night. Reach out to me if there's anything at all that I can do for you. Well, I love you. To all of my fellows who are home alone on a Saturday night, I'm going to keep getting to work with some other stuff. Have a great night, guys.